Welcome to the Mind of Business Success podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Cramer. Our guest today is Jana Bartlett Alonso, and she is the founder of the School of Integrated Healing. This is going to be a fantastic conversation. We're going to go deep on you today, so I hope you're ready. Welcome to the show, Jana.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. It's going to be fun. Like, where's this going to go?
It's going to go somewhere great. I am 100% confident. So I love the type of work that you're doing, and it is very telling when you use the word integrated. And I know that is sort of the almost like the modality terminology, but really it is integrating so many different levels and layers of our existence. And you're working with people to resolve those internal conflicts, the traumas. You're working on mindset, you're working on the physical body, you're working on so many different areas of a person's life to help them to achieve what they want in their life and in their business. So I'd love to start by just talking a little bit about your business so our listeners have a frame of reference for what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, beautiful. Do you know what? You're probably the first person that has ever made that connection. Because when I talk about integrative healing, I talk about it being multiple modality, right? That's what integrative healing means. It means a multiple dimensional approach to healing, taking into consideration that we are physical, we are emotional, we're mental, we're spiritual, and we're energetic, right? So it's this whole comprehensive system of healing. And yet it has that dual meaning of integrated healing. We're going deeper. We're not just learning at a superficial level. And I'm just overjoyed that you picked up on that. Like, literally first person ever. So
well, that's all right.
Like, just blow-minded already. But what I do, and you kind of have really touched on it there, is I help people, or I guide people, I teach people through tools and techniques to take their trauma, to take their obstacles, to take the things that they want to heal, and not only get better, right? Because, sometimes when we talk about healing, we just think about, when I started this work, it's because I had depression, anxiety, and eating disorder. So I thought healing would be like being normal. Do you know what I considered normal? Being well. And then, when I got well, this whole new world opened up to me. I was like, there is so much better than well. Like, what's next? What's even more expansive? What's even more joyful? What's even more healthy? What's even more prosperous? So it's taking people on this healing journey to really creating a new life for them that very often is far greater and far better than they could have imagined when they started, right? And so it's this exciting journey into possibility. And I have a lot of business owners. So what started out as a school about really just multiple modality healing has really transitioned to a school where we are creating wealth and successful businesses from this place of inner healing and inner harmony. So that's a little bit about what I do, and I do it in lots of different ways, and I could talk about it for years, but that's a little taster.
Well, let's start by meeting people right where they are. So we all have stuff. And that's why I'm in business too, right? My clients have lots of stuff. Now, I focus a lot more on the mind side of things with, being a by trade certified hypnotherapist, trained in a lot of different types of modalities as well. But I like to stay in people's heads. That being said, it is so much more than just in the mind. It does affect the whole body. And if we're talking about even in really, really practical, like layman's terms, like for people who are maybe not exposed to some of these different types of modalities, maybe they grew up in this sort of conventional modern age of medicine and have really lost touch with what their body is actually telling them. Like, hey, something's wrong here. You have this unresolved issue. You have these beliefs that are incongruent and out of alignment with what your heart is calling you to do. And they're feeling these symptoms. sometimes it's manifesting as anxiety, sometimes it's manifesting as depression, sometimes it's manifesting as physical pain or fatigue or whatever that manifestation is for them. Now, for someone who is bumping up against some of this stuff, I'd love to talk a little bit from your perspective and your wisdom about how these things show up for us and what it means. Not from like the, oh, I've got this ache, it must mean that I have this belief, but like, what does it really mean in terms of our body is just showing us that something is wrong and it doesn't have to be this way?
So yeah, there's so much that you just shared. Firstly, I am that person that grew up in a traditional household where none of this was spoken about. So that's where I started too, right? And so I think it's what you started with, that trauma isn't just a thing that happens to a small minority of people. And trauma isn't just war or isn't just, sexual abuse. When you say trauma, that's where a lot of people's minds go to. Trauma is actually a very normal part of the human experience. And I want to really, really, really simplify it for you. When you experience something that you can't emotionally fully feel in that moment because it feels too big or scary, you repress that emotion, and that is trauma. That's really all it is. And then you have the neurological part, which I think that you deal with really beautifully and well. And so I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to focus on the emotions, right? Now, here's the thing, is that most of us haven't just experienced one moment of trauma. We've experienced numerous moments of trauma. In other words, numerous moments in our life where we've repressed emotion instead of feeling it, especially in our childhood. Now, that very, very, very frequently manifests as pain or dis-ease in the body. So very often when you see someone with numbness or pain, or, my phone, numbness or pain or any of these symptoms, mystery illnesses, what could it be? Very often it's trapped emotions. And now here's the thing, if we want to go deeper with it, okay? Not only can trapped emotions, repressed emotions, trauma in the body create dis-ease and discomfort and symptoms in your body, you're also holding that frequency of, should we go there? Should we go frequency?
Go there.
Should we go manifestation?
I've introduced them to a bit of metaphysics already. So anyone who's been listening to this podcast for a while has been at least on a high level introduced to what some might consider woo. I say it's all backed by science. Let's go there.
Can I get an amen to that? That's always what I teach. I'm like, you think manifestation is woo? And then I get all these studies out with my clients. And I'm like, and now this, and then so I love that, the science of the manifestation. So what happens when we repress an emotion? Okay, there's so many things that happen, but I'm going to try and keep it simple and poignant and important, right? And practical for you, is that you hold the frequency of that emotion in your body. So let's say as a child, I experienced a moment of shame, right? I went to school maybe and I didn't get picked to play in a netball team. That actually did happen to me. I'm always like, give examples when I do this, and I actually just tell my childhood trauma by accident. But let's say you didn't get picked to be in the netball team like I did, and you felt shame, and you felt unworthy, and you felt small. Well, that is being repressed in your body, and there is a cellular memory of that, okay? Now, that means that shame and that unworthiness, that's a frequency that you are holding. That means, and this is super important, that you become a match to events and situations in your future until that's cleared, that are a vibrational match with shame and unworthiness. So one of the most powerful things, just to loop this back to business, that we can do as business owners is actually clear our body of these emotions, right? And you'll start noticing that, oh, I'm a completely different person when I don't hold that shame, when I don't hold that unworthiness. Suddenly, I'm able to public speak better. Suddenly, it's less terrifying to show up on Instagram and be visible. Suddenly, if something embarrassing happens, it's not as soul-destroying as it was prior to this. So not only are you kind of on an attraction level, attracting different situations and scenarios to your life, it's actually affecting how you interact with your life. And so this is how really deep, emotional, beautiful work can actually unblock you as a business owner. And I actually think it's like, you know, I'm sure you will have said this, having a business is like getting a PhD in personal development. Like, it's like the fast track. I'm like, if I continue at this rate, I'm going to be enlightened by the time I'm like 40, you know, because it's just like lesson after lesson. And what's really beautiful, and I love to teach my clients, is when we experience, you said, how does this show up in your body, but how does this show up in your business? When you experience blockages in your business, if you're willing, right, to see that as an opportunity instead of something bad, that's an opportunity for healing. So it's like, what emotion can I clear to unblock that in my life? And I'm sure you do with hypnotherapy. What belief do I have that I need to rewire to shift that in my life as well, right? And what you'll see, and I'm sure you'll touch on this, is that it's the thoughts that create feelings in our body. So when we get better at the mindset work and the mental work, we create less of those tricky emotions in our body. And the more that we do the emotional work, the more we clear from the past. And also we get better at holding the emotions as they come instead of repressing them. And it's an unfolding, powerful journey that we get to go on as business owners, right?
Absolutely.
Which is, yeah.
So good. So, and I love having this conversation with someone like yourself, who is, you have a successful business and you are helping people to work through their stuff and have all of these breakthroughs. And I love having these types of conversations because this is essentially the type of work that I do with my clients as well. Everything is energy. We know this from Einstein. Thank you, Einstein, right? Sort of brought it to the forefront of people's conscious awareness. But there's still a lot of people that are living with a lot of very superstitious beliefs. And it happens in business all the time. Oh, I'm not getting this result, therefore I must be unworthy. I must be inadequate. There is something fundamentally wrong with me, and the laws of the universe do not apply to me. I am the one exception. No matter what I do, I will not succeed. But this is the mental fuckery, I like to call it, that we experience. And these are opportunities for us to work through our stuff. And as we work through these things, we only become a better version of ourselves, a more successful business owner, a better parent, a better spouse, a better everything. And that's why I say it really is inner work. It's not like you work through one issue and guess what, you get to live happily ever after. And this is the one challenge that I see my clients bumping up against consistently. They'll have a huge breakthrough. But as they continue on their path, on their journey, they bump up against other stuff. And I like to say it's like the ego having a temper tantrum. So now here's the same old story. Oh, shouldn't I be over this by now? It's like all of the progress, all of the growth, all of the successes, all of the money that they've made, all of the accomplishments, all of the wins, all of a sudden become irrelevant in the moment that you're triggered. And so I love to dispel this misconception. And it's sold very much by sophisticated marketing because we all want the quick fix. We all want the magic pill. We all want the magic solution to live happily ever after. But this really is an ongoing journey. So are you seeing this with the work that you're doing as well? Or am I just the exception to the rule?
I feel like I could have said exactly what you just said. That's how much I'm living it. I feel like you just spoke my truth through you. Yes. Do you know what? It's so funny. I get clients as well that in their heads, it's like, manifestation doesn't work for me. And I always say to them, that's like going outside, dropping an apple and saying, do you know what? Gravity doesn't work for me. I'm like, it's a universal law. Like, like gravity works for you every single time. Manifestation works for you every single time if you're doing it right. I think that there's a couple of things here, isn't it? And what I always say to my clients, it's not how you hold yourself when things are going well that counts. It's how you hold yourself when they're not. And the people that make it long term and they create legacies, right? This isn't a short injection of fast cash. This is a legacy. That's the person that shows up, whether or not they're getting clients, whether or not things are going as they desire it to go in their head, whether or not a client has just dropped out, whether or not someone has criticized them, right? They show up continuously. And I would say that's the formula for success. You keep going, you keep showing up, you keep taking responsibility for every single thing in your life, and you learn to hold yourself in that moment of obstacle, in that moment of challenge. That's the secret sauce. You might not like to hear it, but that's what I've experienced to be the truth. And so that's why I always talk about the obstacle is opportunity. The clients maybe dropping out is opportunity. That's almost kind of, I see it as your soul's like, I'm ready to learn this now. I'm ready to learn this now. And it's there's a thing here is I think on Instagram, this is an opinion, we need to get better at showing the reality of having a business. And I love celebrating successes and wins, but I think we need to show the obstacles as much as we show the wins, because then you know that it's not that you're doing it wrong. It's just, this is what it looks like. Yeah. I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, everyone wants the win and they want the approval from others. These are the things that we consistently are bumping up against: wanting approval, wanting control, and of course, this fundamental desire to just feel safe. And there is a lot of there's a lot of allure in only posting your wins and getting all of that positive energy projected at you. Oh, that is amazing. Oh, you're fantastic. Stroke the ego, stroke the ego. Now, from a business perspective, it does make sense as well, right? Because certainly, who are people going to gravitate? People who are more successful. There's just this inherent attractive quality in that. But, and that's really what the theme is here in this podcast, is you can achieve success and you're still human. You're still going to have insecurities. You're still going to encounter fears. You're still going to bump up against old stuff that you haven't worked through yet. It is part of this process. And that's why I love bringing on business owners who are already achieving what other people consider to be very successful. Maybe they have the 7, 8, or 9 figure business, and them sharing, listen, friends, I've gone through the imposter syndrome. I still bump up against the insecurities. I'm not perfect. I still feel fear. I still encounter setbacks. So we start to normalize this, and people stop feeling like if they bump up against these things, it means that they can't achieve more. You can, and you will, if you take 100% responsibility and you just keep going. And you talked about both of those things. You talked about taking responsibility, and you talked about persistence, persevering through this and sitting with the discomfort. Yesterday, I had one of those days. Normally, my schedule is totally booked. Like sometimes I'm like, okay, I got to scale it back here, scale it back here, scale it back here. And for whatever reason, yesterday, there wasn't much on my schedule. And I had to sit with myself in that discomfort. And I was like, wow, how about that? This actually doesn't feel very good. I'm so used to being a go, 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 that to sit with that and say, okay, well, now it's time for me to brainstorm something new, a new opt-in, a new campaign, a new something, because now I have the time to actually do this. And I actually had to sit through my discomfort first. And I like that we can talk about these things because this is just normal. It's okay. It doesn't mean you're a failure. It doesn't mean that that God is withholding abundance from you or any crazy shit like that, right? These are just normal things that we experience based on all of this conditioning that we've experienced life, and not all of it is rosy and rainbows and butterflies.
Something that I've experienced in myself and in my clients is that when we have something that arises that is uncomfortable, if you can really be with it and you can really sit with it, that's the precursor to your expansion.
Absolutely. Nope. You muted.
Sorry, apologies.
There you go.
Am I back?
You are back.
Oh, and the sound's gone weird. Okay. And something that I've experienced, actually, I'll just repeat that, is that when you're able to sit with that uncomfortable emotion and that you can really, really, really hold that, that's the precursor to your expansion. Because very often when we're avoiding emotions, let me give you a really tangible example, okay? And I think a lot of people have experienced the discomfort of slowing down. When you slow down, the emotions come up. It's like nervous system 101, like that just happens and it's great. And your job is to be with them, like exactly as you did. But I remember a big obstacle for me in my business was I really wanted to be liked. And so I would censor myself. I would show up in kind of me, but also not really me, because I was so terrified of receiving criticism, because criticism felt bad. People not liking me felt bad. Clients being triggered by something I said felt bad. And this was blocking me. This was blocking me financially. This was blocking me in numerous ways, right? When I finally sat down and I allowed myself to feel the emotions that came up when I was criticized and I was not liked. Explosion, financial explosion. Why? Because I allowed myself to be visible. Why? Because I could fully feel safe in being who I was again, right? So I actually think that learning to be with those uncomfortable emotions, it's not just about us, being human, which it is part of that. It's like that's part of the formula to success too, right? Because the things that we're usually fearful of are feelings. And if we're not fearful of our feelings, then we start being more fearless, And it can sound a bit of a mind, I don't know if I can swear here.
You go ahead.
Mind fuck. But that's how it works.
So now let's talk a little bit about how you are supporting people with your business and how people can connect with you, because I think that the work that you're doing is so needed. And there are obviously going to be people who are going to say, you know what, I get it. Let's do it. So talk to us a little bit about your model, your methodology, what you do, how people can connect with you.
So there are several different ways that you can work with me depending on kind of what you are feeling more called towards. But I've got a school called the School of Integrative Healing. You can join at any time for an 8-month membership. And, what's really powerful in the School of IH is we take this theory, which is delightful, and we actually implement it, right? So you start living it. You've got to live this work to be shifted and transformed by it. So we journey in those 8 months from the physical body to the emotional and mental body to the spiritual and to the energetic. And in each one of those bodies, you learn different tools and techniques to help you shift and transform, right? Literally inside out. The end conclusion is birthing the life that you want to birth, whether that's healing your relationships, attracting a new partner, building more wealth. Like I love to teach on money. If you don't want to learn about money, don't come into any of my spaces because it's all I'm going to talk about. as well. I'm gonna bring it back to that. That I would say is the most powerful way to work with me, especially if we're kind of beginning, because you're going to really learn all of those tools inside out. We're also creating a certification program so you can get certified in integrative healing, as we teach loads of trauma healing processes that you can do on yourself, and we also teach them for you to hold space for others, right? And so if you're a coach, a healer, a mentor, and actually want to learn these tools, it's a really powerful container. I also have business containers. So some of my strengths are, I love inexplicable, exponential financial growth, right? I'm a projector. I'm very much like, I do the thing, I make a lot of money, and then I rest, if you know about human design. So I take on business clients. This is a slightly higher ticket offering. And here I teach you how to really create live events, to really leverage your products and your services and to get you in front of a bigger audience. So I really love doing that with business owners as well. And then I've also got a book called Healthy Wealth. If you just want to begin and start something, it's really simple tools and techniques that through implementation can really teach you how to start creating healthy wealth inside out, because I'm not about that stress or that hustle or that sacrifice. I'm about it being like fun and easeful and pleasurable, right? And life just getting better and better. So I think we'll start there.
Awesome. And what is your website?
Can I give you links so you can just drop this below?
You can. And if anybody's listening, make sure you at least tell them in case they're listening in their car, and hopefully they can make a mental note.
So the website is the School of Integrative Healing. And my Instagram is Hannah Bartlett Alonso.
Perfect.
Hannah spelled with a J. I think if you're listening to this, you would not assume that Hannah was spelled with a J. Hannah is spelled Jana. And you can find me there, and you can just drop me a DM, and we can talk about kind of best ways to, serve you. I'll drop you some links. You can also book a call with my team, and what they'll do is they'll, spend 30 minutes with you and actually just recommend and suggest what services would be more aligned to your current desires and requirements.
So this has been a super fun conversation for me. I geek out on this stuff because this is a lot of the same stuff that I do with my clients, and I know how transformational it really is. And that's why I wanted to give you an opportunity to share with people what you're doing, how they can take this and really start to work at this deeper level. Obviously, as someone who has done hypnotherapy and EFT and a lot of different types of energy modalities with clients for years, and on myself, obviously, I am my own best student for sure. This really is such an important piece of the success puzzle. And I'm not just talking about financial success. I'm talking about living a life that really honors you, a life that feels incredible. And we all have room for growth. We all can have more and better. And that's not coming from a place of greed. That's coming from a place of self-love. If your heart is saying, I know there's more, there is more. And it's just about clearing away the clutter and aligning with what it is that your heart really, really wants. So thank you so much, Hannah, for being with me today and sharing all of your wisdom and all of your knowledge. I know we just scratched the surface, but it really was a great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. And yes, I love the fact that we're closing with that. There is always more. Isn't that just the focus?
Absolutely. And of course, I've got to thank all of our listeners. If you haven't already subscribed, please make sure you do so. And until next time, we will see you in the next episode.